Didn't want to be friends with her anymore, which is sick. You know, if you don't want to be friends with somebody, leave them alone, but don't murder them.
What do you want to say to these two girls?
Rotten hell. How's that? Because that's exactly what I want them to do. I want them to go through the pain and agony my daughters went through. I want them to have no life because Skylar doesn't have.
Skylar Annette Neese was born February 10th, 1996, in Star City, West Virginia. She was the only child of Mary and Dave Neese, the center of their small family. And, by every account, the center of gravity in her friend group, too. She was a straight A student with a 4.0 grade point average, worked part-time at a local Wendy's, and told people she wanted to grow up to be a criminal defense attorney. Her father remembered her as bubbly, funny, a little mischievous, the kind of kid who pulled harmless pranks on her parents and adored animals, even insects. Sheila Eddy was born September 28, 1995, in Blacksville, West Virginia, the only child of Tara Clendenin and Greg Eddy. Her parents divorced when she was young, after her father was seriously injured in a car accident. Sheila met Skylar when they were both around 8 years old, through a local children's activity program. From that point on, the two were nearly inseparable. Close enough that Dave Neese would later say Sheila felt like one of his own kids, like family. In 2010, after her mother remarried, Sheila and her family moved from Blacksville to Morgantown, where she enrolled at University High School, the same school Skylar attended. The childhood friendship simply picked up where it left off, now with the two of them seeing each other every day. Rachel Elizabeth Schoaf was born June 10, 1996, and raised in Morgantown, the daughter of Rusty and Patricia Schoaf in a devout Catholic family. She'd attended a private Catholic school for most of her childhood, and by most descriptions, she was a quiet, agreeable kid. Not the profile anyone would have guessed for what came later. When Rachel started high school at University High in September 2010, she met Sheila, and through Sheila, she met Skylar. What began as two separate friendships, Skylar and Sheila's childhood bond, and Sheila and Rachel's new one, folded into a single, tight, three-person circle. They took selfies together, rode around town together, spent almost every free hour together. For a while, it worked. But somewhere in their sophomore year, the bond started to fray. The three girls had been feuding in the weeks before July 2012. Nothing that looked serious enough from the outside to worry the adults around them, but something had shifted underneath. What none of the adults knew, and what Skylar herself may never have known, was that Sheila and Rachel had grown closer to each other in a way they were keeping hidden. July 5th, 2012. Skylar finishes her shift at Wendy's and comes home late. She tells her parents, Mary and Dave, that she's tired and heading to bed. What her parents don't know is that Skylar has done this before. Pushed a bench beneath her ground floor bedroom window so she can slip out quietly at night without waking anyone. At around 12:30 a.m. on July 6th, security cameras outside the apartment complex catch her climbing out of that window. She walks to a car waiting nearby and gets into the back seat. Behind the wheel is Sheila Eddy, Skylar's best friend since childhood. In the passenger seat is Rachel Schoaf, a friend the two of them met freshman year, who over time had become the third point of an inseparable trio. The footage is too grainy to make out much more than that. It's the last confirmed sighting of Skylar Neese alive. She never comes home. According to the plan Rachel would later describe to investigators, the three of them were supposed to drive out to a remote wooded area, a spot they'd used before for late-night hangouts, under the same excuse they always used: joyriding, smoking marijuana. Except this time, Sheila and Rachel already knew how the night was going to end. The signal they'd agreed on, Rachel said, was simple. One of them would count to 3, and on 3, they would attack. When Rachel finally told investigators what happened that night, the account she gave was almost unbearable in how ordinary it started. They drove roughly 30 miles across the state line to a wooded pull-off in Brave, Pennsylvania, a spot all three girls knew well from past nights spent smoking there. In the trunk of Sheila's car, hidden away, were things that had no business being part of an innocent hangout. Kitchen knives wrapped in towels, cleaning rags, bleach, wet wipes, a shovel, and a change of clothes for each of them, packed in advance for after. The three of them got out of the car and stood around talking like they had 100 times before. Then Sheila and Rachel said they'd forgotten a lighter, Skylar, never suspecting a thing, offered to go back and grab it herself. As she turned her back to walk to the car, Sheila and Rachel pulled the knives out from where they'd hidden them in their hoodies. Rachel would later say they counted together, 1, 2, 3, and on 3, they attacked. Skylar tried to run. She didn't get far. Rachel tackled her in the road and kept stabbing while Sheila closed in behind her. At one point in the struggle, Skylar managed to wrench the knife out of Rachel's hand and cut her leg with it, the one moment she was able to fight back. Rachel got the knife back. Both girls kept going. By the time it was over, Skylar had been stabbed more than 50 times. Witnesses to the confession later said her last word, gasped out as she was dying, was simply, "Why?" Neither girl had an answer for her then. It would take Rachel another 6 months to give investigators one at all. Afterward, the ground in that stretch of Pennsylvania woods was too hard and rocky to dig a real grave. So Sheila and Rachel changed into the clean clothes they'd packed and covered Skylar's body with sticks, leaves, and dirt instead. A shallow, makeshift concealment just off a road the three of them used to visit for fun. Then they drove home. Later that day, Sheila calls Mary Neese. She tells her that she, Skylar, and Rachel had snuck out the night before, driven around Star City, smoked marijuana, and that she and Rachel had dropped Skylar off near home afterward. It's a story that will hold up just long enough to buy time. The next day, July 7th, Sheila and her mother joined the Neese family to canvass the neighborhood, handing out flyers, going door to door. Rachel, meanwhile, leaves for a 2-week Catholic summer camp. Within days, Skylar's disappearance becomes local news. Television, radio, word of mouth. A community search effort forms.
We're going to start with her father, Dave Neese. Thank you, sir, for being here. Our hearts go out to you. We know these past 2 months must have been horrific. Tell us about what your daughter did right before she disappeared. How did she get out of your home, and what did she do, according to you, with her friends?
Well, she came home from work, like you said, that evening, and she got home and walked in the door. She went over to her mother, hugged and kissed her mother. She came over to me, kissed me, went to her bedroom, and that's the last we...
Investigators at this stage don't suspect foul play from the girls at all. Because surveillance footage shows Skylar leaving voluntarily, no formal missing child alert is issued. She isn't classified as an abduction case. Rumors start to circulate instead. That Skylar went to a party, that she may have overdosed, that people panicked and hid what happened. Lead investigator Corporal Ronnie Gaskins later says he'd heard theories that she'd used heroin and died, and that someone disposed of her body out of fear. None of it is true, but it's enough to send the investigation down the wrong road for weeks. As the weeks pass, small inconsistencies start to surface. Investigators pull surveillance video from a gas station along the route Sheila and Rachel claim to have driven that night. The car in the footage is Sheila's, but the timeline doesn't match their story. Cell phone records place the vehicle far from Star City, out in rural Blacksville, at around 4 a.m., long after the girls said they'd already dropped Skylar off at home. Two friends who are supposed to be the last people to see Skylar alive have now been caught lying about where they were and when. And yet, publicly, nothing about their behavior looks like guilt. Sheila keeps posting on social media about missing her best friend. Both girls show up at vigils. Both girls sit with the Neese family offering comfort while the truth stays buried. Investigators are suspicious now. But suspicion isn't evidence. Without a body, without a confession, without a weapon, they have a case built on a story that doesn't add up, and nothing more. Months go by. The investigation stalls publicly, but behind the scenes, the FBI joins the case, digging deeper into phone records and the girls' shifting statements. For Rachel, the secret starts to become unbearable. On December 28, 2012, nearly 6 months after Skylar vanished, Rachel is admitted to a psychiatric hospital during a mental health crisis. It's there that she asks to speak with her family's lawyer and with investigators. 1 week later, on January 3, 2013, Rachel confesses. She tells investigators that she and Sheila killed Skylar, and she leads them toward the location where they left her body, across the state line in rural Greene County, Pennsylvania. Winter weather delays the recovery. It isn't until January 16, 2013, that Skylar's remains are finally found. The autopsy tells its own story. More than 50 stab wounds across her neck, back, torso, and hands. Wounds consistent with the struggle. 2 knives were used. The question that follows Rachel's confession is the one that haunts the entire case. Why? Rachel's first answer to investigators is almost impossibly simple. She and Sheila, she says, had just stopped liking Skylar. But later, in court, a deeper explanation emerges. Rachel discloses that she and Sheila had been in a secret romantic relationship, one they were desperate to keep hidden. And that tension involving Skylar had built around that secret in the weeks before the murder. Investigators had already noted the 3 friends were feuding in the period leading up to her death. Skylar's own social media posts in early July hinted that something was wrong. Brief, frustrated messages posted just 2 days before she disappeared. Whatever the full truth of the motive, it was never a stranger, a predator, or a random act. It was calculated, and it came from 2 people Skylar trusted completely. With Rachel's confession secured and the body recovered, prosecutors moved quickly. Sheila Eddy is arrested on May 1st, 2013, in a restaurant parking lot. Both girls, 16 at the time of the murder, are charged as adults. Rachel pleads guilty to second-degree murder in exchange for her cooperation. In January 2014, roughly 19 months after the killing, she is sentenced to 30 years in prison, with eligibility for parole after 10. She is the only one of the 2 who apologizes to Skylar's parents in court. Sheila pleads guilty to first-degree murder. On January 24th, 2014, she is sentenced to life in prison, with eligibility for parole after 15 years.
Sheila Eddy, how do you plead to the offense of murder in the first degree of the felony charged in count 3 of the indictment in this case?
Guilty.
The record will reflect that the defendant has entered a plea of guilty to the offense of murder in the first degree of the felony charged in count 3 of the indictment in this case. You may be seated. Watch the chair, please. Ms. Eddy, have you heard what the prosecutor said the state's evidence would be?
Yes, sir.
Is that substantially correct?
Yes, sir.
Is that what happened?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Eddy, are you entering a plea of guilty to the offense of murder in the first degree, the felony charged in count 3 of this indictment, because you are in fact guilty of this offense?
Yes, sir.
My name is David Neese. I'm Skylar's father. I'm here today with my wife, Mary. The person sitting before you, Skylar's so-called friend, took her away from us without any remorse or feelings. You can look into the eyes of those who are responsible, but you can never hear what they heard as they were taking her life. You can see the faces of the killer, but you can't see Skylar's face. You can never understand the fear that she must have had as they took a knife and ended her life.
Ms. Eddy, would you please stand? Sheila Eddy, for your conviction of the offense of murder in the first degree upon your plea of guilty, it is the sentence of the court that you've been imprisoned in the West Virginia State Penitentiary for the rest of your natural life. Consistent with the requirements of the Constitution of the United States, that sentence is technically with mercy, which makes you eligible for parole after you have served 15 years. Sheila.
Both women are held today at Lakin Correctional Center in West Virginia, in the same facility. For Mary and Dave Neese, justice didn't end with a sentencing. It became a mission.
But does this bring any sort of sense of closure, and can your family start to move on?
Like I said before, there's no closure at all, I don't think. I mean, who knows how my mind works right now. But if you can figure out, let me know. But the only way that there could be closure if they both were in prison. I know they're both in jail right now. One of them's been sentenced, one of them hasn't. After the other one gets sentenced, then we can start worrying about all that. But right now, I don't think it'll ever be closed. My little girl was something.
They argued that the system had failed their daughter in the earliest hours of her disappearance, that because there was no proof of abduction, no urgent alert had gone out, and precious time was lost. In 2013, West Virginia lawmakers responded, unanimously passing what's now known as Skylar's Law, expanding the state's missing child alert system so that alerts can be issued faster, without first having to prove a child was abducted. The Neeses also turned the site where their daughter's body was found into a memorial. A bench, string lights, small tributes left quietly along a rural Pennsylvania road. As of Rachel's most recent parole eligibility in 2025, she has been denied twice and has since waived a hearing. Neither woman has been released. Skylar Neese was killed by the two people she trusted most in the world, girls who then spent 6 months standing beside her parents, pretending to search for her.
And still to this day, we do not know why they did this. And that is a question we would like an answer to. Because what in the world would be so bad that you would have to kill Skylar and to put her through what you did? You didn't think about that when you were doing it, so why would we need to think about how you feel now? You stood there for over a year, comforting, being with us, telling us you knew nothing. When the police and everybody was coming close, then you decided to confess. You need to think about everything you put us, your family, and everyone else through with not being able to have the pleasures that other kids would have. No grandchildren, no marriages, no prom, no graduation. How do you think that would make us feel?
It's a case that became a documentary, a podcast, a change in state law, and for anyone who has ever mistaken closeness for safety, a lasting warning about how well betrayal can hide behind friendship.